Thanks for being here, Refik. Was it your birthday about 10 days ago? Am I right to think that?
Yes.
What did you do on your birthday?
Just working. I was in the our AI museum challenge on the fields, constructing and cabling and all that hardcore work we are going through, celebrating life through more work.
And are you in LA right now?
Yes, based in LA for 12 years, and an amazing team, and grateful at teaching at UCLA. Yeah.
Well, we are so excited to hear more about Dataland, which is opening in spring 2026. It feels like it's almost like the culmination of all of your practice. And it would be so wonderful to hear from you the beginnings of your journey as an artist, when you started and where you are at right now.
I mean, first of all, thank you for inviting. Happy to share. I was very, I guess, fortunate to born in a family of teachers that I think allow me and my family to really connect through knowledge, experience in life. But I'm so grateful that I think maybe ancestral, I guess, information that the teaching was always incredibly important for the family. And I felt that being able to learn is an incredible practice of life. And my mom just, I guess, without knowing anything about the impact, but got my first computer 8 years old, the Commodore, which was like an incredible basic programming language. And then loving with games and the idea of gamification and the idea of player two and the idea of like a machine as a collaborator, very early ages kicked in. And I watched Blade Runner as a child that I guess triggered this idea of a media architecture, the near future of like and buildings communicating each other, the machines and humans are collaborating. I'm just guessing that those are my very much early and anchor points for imagination. Undergrad years were incredibly grateful that I learned programming, 3D softwares and typography and design culture and photography. I love physical photography context of like, working with very early with analog photography allow me to understand the idea of a memory as a substance, not necessarily just numbers, and that transcode into data as a substance. And then I fall in love with the media architecture, the idea of a space and I guess walls and ceilings and floors can become a canvas context. And then I thought that would be incredible to deep dive in these mediums. I coined the term data painting 2008, and then 2011 to create my first, I guess, data sculpture in public spaces.
What did data painting mean and entail?
So I think 2008, when I was in my undergrad last year, I worked with a software called Pure Data in a very exciting class of Koray Tahirol, who is an incredible professor at Aalto University. And he has been teaching for mostly sound artists and sound creatives to use kind of a MXMSP jitter softwares, which are like visual programming languages, allow you to create systems by using a sensor or data sources and so forth. That was my first encounter with the idea of a visual programming, the machine as like, I guess, a collaborator of any kind of, I guess, information. When I saw these first signals from the sensor, the idea of data as a pigment, which is not necessarily a number, but a form of pigment that can take any shape, any form, any color. Just that was that moment, that realization that I could take this context of information as a substance and transcode into light, and eventually with AI, make more meaning from it.
I'm so sorry. What does data as a pigment mean in practice?
So for me, information as data, let's say it like that a machine can compute, a machine can calculate, machine can give a meaning to, like, I guess it's inner language of between systems and hardware and software. I felt that this information, first of all, is a language of humanity. That's, I think, majority of the humanity, how we communicate, even though we don't know the language of machines altogether, but we know that the machine and I guess systems and software and hardware is always in conversation, from Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, brain signals, or whatever. Like every single sensors around us is somehow in communication. So I guess, contextualizing this information through the lens of art, meaning give a form, shape, pattern, color, discourse, context, it's all coming from that same substance of the idea of that the language of machines and systems becoming a pigment. It's just this idea of a practice that take the invisible visible and then transcode into a new form of art.
Are there any examples that might help us kind of understand that? As in, I I don't understand computer language, but I understand the English language. Is A equals red? Is there something like that going on? Like how does it work?
First of all, let's think about the weather data. So let's go back to maybe history, right? Monet, when Monet is inspired from landscapes and water lilies, when he was depicting nature back in time, his tool was a pigment and a brush and a canvas, and of course another natures and I guess landscapes. And that's just how he transcode what he sees through his mind's eye, and a practice of aesthetics transcode into the form of art. When I think about data, when I think about, I guess, machine as a collaborator, for me, the brush is a thinking brush. And for me, the canvas can be the light, which can be a media surface, projection on any building, any wall, anywhere, and anything. Like there's no, let's say, an edge or a border, but the idea of this painting could be depicted through information. For example, when I look at the landscapes of Amazonia in rainforest, what I see as a picture is also how Monet sees, I guess, the landscape. But in this case, we have 7 million species of every single creatures ever collected so far, meaning all the flowers, all the faunas, all the fungi, all type of clouds. And then plus we can move this pigment with the force of nature, which is the weather patterns, the wind patterns, the gust, the speed, the rain, the humidity, all becomes the part of the painting. Kind of a living surface, not necessarily like a frozen pigment, like the physics or Newtonian challenges of painting. But this painting form does not need to, I guess, freeze through the natural phenomena of, I guess, chemicals and materials and Newtonian world. But for me, the mind's eye here is the code and the data, and still the discourse context is similar places. But the outcome is, I guess, much different.
And when you started thinking about this medium, you started from the field of technology, and it gave you that tool for expression. Did you know you wanted to go on these kind of architectural, like monumental levels, like because your work is mostly known for being very immersive? Was that always something you knew from the very beginning?
So that's a great question. Really, the beginning for me is my room, like literally where my first computer, and apparently my mom's like memory, even like after I got the computer and first like exposure to science fiction, I guess, the imagination. I've been looking so long, staring the walls and the ceiling, and she really like she gets so concerned, and even like call our a couple of doctor friends like this is like weird, he is looking so long. And it's maybe something is wrong, and I mean
Did you have any
daydreaming.
friends, Refik?
So,
did you have any friends, or were you in your room the whole time alone, just with your computer? Tell us the truth.
Player two. but I think what was amazing to me that I felt is, if I'm that much inspired by the idea of a game as a simulation, the idea of a place we can program, a concrete steel and glass that goes beyond, I guess, predictable, conventional. Here's a wall, here's a ceiling, here's a building. We protect from Mother Nature. We add this function of hospital or a museum or a gallery or a school. That idea of like a space with its own constraints, I guess, was always his. Yeah, sure, but why the world is like that? Like, if the world that I can imagine is always in flux, why this space doesn't have the same properties? Why this room doesn't remember? Why this wall is not just have the emotional context? Why doesn't it like give me the support that I need intellectually, emotionally, spiritually? I always question this very, very, very early ages, I guess. But as an artist, I'm an architect. I respect architecture so much. I love architecture. But I felt that I may be the bridge between what the architecturally functional means, and maybe there's a new form of imagination that arts, architecture, AI, and eventually, I guess, neuroscience can connect. So that's where I found this new vocabulary.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And by the way, the reason our works are generally large is not necessarily egocentric. It's about the sublime, meaning the wall itself is our narrator. Like when we go to Guggenheim Bilbao, the reason it's like a 16 meter, it's not me. It's the Frank Gehry's vision of that wall. Or in the MoMA, the wall is Gone lobby. It's defined so like a 30 feet high ceiling of that wall is the reason of that lobby. And I try to embed our work to the architecture instead of becoming another, let's say, a media or just a piece on the wall.
Because I think your work was like went extremely viral during COVID. I think that's sort of when I first, is that right, Jamie? Was that for you as well?
It felt to me like the big moment was that massive screen on Miami Beach outside Soho House, I think it was.
I just feel like it put you immediately on the art map at that point, in the art talk, whether good or bad. And we can talk about that later because I find that very interesting. It's like suddenly, I guess you kind of were navigating more in the technology research. I mean, so much of your work has that backbone to it. But the crossover into the art world is often very hard for artists who work with technologies.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, Jamie, that installation in Miami was the one thing that went viral and brought up a lot of discussions.
When was that? Was that just before COVID?
21. Yeah,
21,
it's just
okay.
and end of COVID. Absolutely.
That's it. And I remember it was a surreal thing to see because my whole relationship with public spaces had changed a lot during COVID time because suddenly you couldn't go to museums. There was nothing. And suddenly like looking at art through your phone had a whole different meaning. And but I wanted to ask you about exactly that crossover of being very research heavy. You studied at UCLA, you were at Google, you've worked with some of the most impressive and knowledgeable people in the field of AI. How did you find that crossover into the art world, and was it important to you at all?
So I think a little bit, maybe much background. So I did my first exhibition 2012. So I didn't start by that time. Just before I get my second MFA, I had my first exhibition. But between 2008 and 2011, that 3 years, I have been performing. I have been creating lots of installation in Europe. And the Europe's media art scene is extremely active and still very active. So I'm coming from that 3 years of hands-on festivals in Ars Electronica, and many
Yes.
exhibition, many I received exciting responses back in then. I will say my first very big encounter with internet was 2008 when I uploaded, I guess, my undergrad graduation projects. Like I received these like millions of views and incredible emails globally. That was my first time. Wait a minute, like a video on Vimeo that can make that impact. And by the way, it's a pre-IG, pre-TikTok, and X even not. I don't know. I mean, Twitter was not even something. Facebook or something. That was an incredible response. But what I learned about that is the public art is a form of art, is not like something privately held, not for certain part of the art world. And by the way, I'm an independent artist. I don't have gallery representation. So there was a fight from the beginning. So if I had a gallery represented me, not work, I work with galleries, but representation, right? That's a different thing. If an artist have a represented galleries, you are like a backed by the gallery, backed by the networks, backed by the like collectors, backed by the museums. That bit is incredibly exciting. As an independent artist, I have to learn everything myself, meaning, from accountant to like PR to like, teams. And so this is a whole different mindset, right? So when I opened our studio 2014, I would say our first important work was 2014, November. We did the first LA Philharmonic installation with Esa-Pekka Salonen in Walt Disney Concert Hall. That project put us on the map, I would say, in performing arts. And 1 year later, in Salesforce building in San Francisco, 2015, we opened our first AI data sculpture and this 350 mission in San Francisco. And that was another major response from architecture, engineering, public art. It was the first data sculpture, by the way, in its own kind. And of course, what happened there, the people in San Francisco, in Bay Area, who are inventing Google, NVIDIA, and so forth, they just have their coffees. And in like a lunchtime, I was getting emails from like engineers. Wait a minute, that's a data sculpture. Like, I mean, how did you do that? Like how, like, and again, 10 years ago, being able to embed real-time data. And then that triggered this beautiful relationship. The Google invited me, become the first artist in residence. I'm an employee. I just get the responsible way of learning machine learning algorithms, heavy compute knowledge. And my team was back in time 8 people. Now we are 30 people. But then we learned how to use AI. And a year later, I mean, of course, NVIDIA friends, Jensen, Huang, are dear collectors and supporters and a true champion of course, AI's brain. And he just like, hey, like, can we brainstorm for our new building? And like, whatever, 50 kilometers later. And I suddenly become this incredibly inspired by the people who are shaping the future, became our collectors. Not necessarily the art world, not necessarily like, practicing art as itself or the network of art places and pieces. The people who are inventing future and technologies became our collectors and supporters. And I found myself last 10 years never change, the pioneers of the field, and respectfully from Nobel laureates to many others, like Demis and his incredible team. I'm grateful that our work became in the cornerstone of those amazing research and practice. So art science and technology in our work is in the heart. But I would say you're right. For the public art, 2018, before Miami, 3 years ago, we projection mapped Disney Hall, Frank Gehry's Walt Disney Concert Hall. And again, 7 years ago, a building dreams 100 years of information with AI, with image, sound, back in time. 7 years ago, 100 years of Mozart, Stravinsky, Mahler, and so forth, dreaming. It was a very early AI, I guess, pioneering this field. But of course, I would say MoMA, almost 3 million people we received. I'm so grateful that project. That I would say change every perception.
This was an unbelievably fascinating past minute of of this podcast. I've got so many questions. It's amazing how you always refer to our collectors and we and speak about you as a collective. On the kind of active decision to not go down the gallery representation route, did you realize that you were kind of signing up to be a CEO of your business as well as an artist?
Of course, you have to be anything and everything. That's a very different mindset. And I felt that it's the only way I can learn everything about the field. Because I don't just want to be a blind on my corner, egocentrically painting my piece. I don't want to be just alone with my melancholia or hysteria or paranoia and just stay in my corner and forever imagine the humanity's potential, unfortunate problems. And I just don't want to be there. As a child, I hold my hope, inspiration, and joy. That was my ultimate goal, to make my pieces and artworks to impact through these feelings. But then I learned that to have the authority, the language, the vocabulary, the freedom, it needs to be done differently. And I just learned to learn. And I love to understand anything and everything about not just one way of looking at it, but from all aspects. And I know it's very hard for many artists. Artists are sometimes introverts. Being extrovert is way harder for artistic mind. And I have to first learn to be social. I have to learn to explain what I do and why I do. And this is all about us. It just gives a different perspectives of, I think it's all about being hands-on, being honest about everything, and be so transparent and see through every single aspects of art making, and just don't be in a lazy in the corner and stay with one day a magical hand will take this artwork and give the value and voila. I felt that these are not my way of understanding art. I felt that from my heart, it calls me to be present in every aspect of art making and learn as much as I can to define a new medium. And defining a medium, a new pioneering context of art making, I believe requires responsibilities. And that responsibility has to be every single layers of it, instead of ear-to-ear data, broken information, just versus I am just hands-on. I wrote the invoice, I met with my collector, I install the work, I calculate the HDMI cable, I compute the data, and I connect this to the cloud, and also be sure that COA is sent to the collector on time and all the backups is right. I felt that this is the way of digital art making, to understand all aspects honestly and openly.
So you need to understand the whole business side of it in order to really be able to be an artist. Does the business side inform the artwork, the artworks?
I think if you are defining a medium, to own the medium and be sure that has a future and has a community around it, has more depth around it, and needs to be discourse context included in every single layers. This is the mindset I believe can give the confidence, understanding, and most importantly, sharing properly and transparently. I felt that this was a one challenging way to choose, because I'm also a teacher in the university for 10 years. I don't want to talk with my students half-hearted.
Are you still teaching, Refik?
Yes, 10 years. 10 years. So that's what I learned. Every single question. I mean, sure, with AI, everyone can now program it. I mean, it's just the easiest thing ever. Programming a computer to make art? Sure. How many seconds you need? Right? I mean, like how many 5 applications? You are tomorrow morning most likely building the best artwork ever you can imagine. But the thing is, what does it mean after that? The life after art making is as important as before art making. So I honestly believe that the practice of a medium sometimes needs to see all perspectives.
I mean, a team of 30 that's a big team. Do you then try to kind of keep a finger in each different kind of area, or can you find the time and headspace to like properly just like totally get your head in the work and forget about the business side of things?
Yes. So the reason we are 30 people globally, but the 20 people in the studio in Los Angeles, and the number 20 is incredible because I've been teaching 20 people for 10 years. And the idea of being in a class, in a lab, is an incredible feeling because it's not like necessarily a boring like work environment or some sculptures or a painting studio with very hands-on heavy work. It's about intellectually 20 people sitting together. And half of us is data scientists, by the way. We have an incredibly exciting AI research, data research. This is a heavy research mindset, not necessarily just creating beautiful computer graphics. There's like a very rigorous research on data. To be precise, we work with more than 5 billion images and just recently collect 500 million ethical data of nature. And we are working with Smithsonian, Natural History Museums, and incredible institutions partnering our data scientists. So just to be sure that our data science is a significant lab work. So it's not just, imagine inventing a pigment from scratch for each project, and each data has to be rigorously researched, profoundly understood, ethically I guess curated, collected, and then computed. So that's like a heavy work of our practice. The other half is we have incredible architects, engineers, neuroscientists, scholars. So it's a place of really laboratory, not necessarily I'm extremely hands-on. Every single decisions, knowing every single medium, data sets, algorithms, partnerships.
What are the main things, Refik, that you want your artworks to convey? I think they're visually very powerful, and we talked about scale, and just generally they're really impressive. Often, if you don't know, you might not know the data that goes into it. What do you hope people take away from your work when they see it?
So there's a couple of angles of the experience of the work. So the reason I explain how hard it is to create those works are, first of all, invisible patterns. Sometimes people just see the surface. That's easy. Because in the age of AI, people believe that, prompting and doing that things is easy and so forth. But we know that the authenticity and owning the vocabulary comes from training your own models, creating your own data sets. By the way, we traveled across the world. What makes our work very different than probably many AI artists' work is I personally travel across the world, 16 rainforests. I live in the Amazonia for a month to collect data. So we have this all type of information that we collect before even train a model.
What do you mean by collecting data? Sorry, in that instance.
So, for example, our Glacier Dreams project, we went to Antarctica, Iceland and Argentina for different glaciers and record information. These are drone surveys, lidar scannings, and even the beautiful, these fragile, I guess, sculptures of the Earth. And we collect their smell, we collect their sound, we collect their molecules, and then turn them into beautiful form of remembering, a form of appreciating nature's ever-changing patterns. Or when we did a project with space, NASA GPL here in Pasadena, in our 10 minutes drive from our studio, we worked with the 6 years of every single GPL archives with the engineers with the researchers. So what our work does on the surface, maybe meditation, or some people don't understand a screensaver or whatever that, like, the depth of the audience is reflected. If it's a mirror, so I guess, to coming back, AI to me is a form of mirror, and I think our works are reflecting back exactly what we would like to see. If you want to stay on the, I guess, surface, computer graphics, you can stay there. If you want to understand where information comes from and why exactly human-machine collaboration matters for humanity, you can dive there. If you want to talk about sustainable compute, you can find it there. If you want to find about intellectual discourse of machine-human interventions of, I guess, intellectual mind, you can find information there. What I'm trying to say is, or open source culture of data, you can find it there. So what I'm trying to say is, I just try to run away from one way of explaining the work and let the audience reflect how deep they are, how surface they are, what they need from that. Example, Serpentine Galleries, we received 90,000 people, one of the largest audience in Serpentine, and we put a beautiful process video wall. And I give like a 32 students, and they are like MFA, I guess, MA studies, or the support we do through work is not necessarily just on the surface of aesthetic experience. And I will be happy to say, in neuroscience research, we had a significant impact on Alzheimer research. And also at the UNICEF, we raised significant funding for 5 children's brain signals turned into a beautiful positive data. They have been healed. And then 2 months ago with Messi, we raised significant funding for UNICEF, for Yawanaba people from Amazonia rainforest. We use Web3 technology to raise funding to build the first museum in Amazonia. So I can count many examples. So we can see all aspects. Whatever we want to see is there.
We spoke earlier about a gallery. Were you ever tempted? I mean, it feels like your work is so much larger than the gallery life or the museum. It feels like it's a lot more public in that sense. It's not for a small group of art lovers. It's really for the public.
Yes.
I'm sure you get reached out all the time by galleries, dealers, etc., of working with them. Were you ever tempted to have some kind of representation or working more closely with galleries? And is this something you'd consider?
So first of all, I worked with Jeffrey Deitch galleries, Steve from the Beat Farms.
Nice.
Of course, I work with galleries, but not represented. I just want to be sure. I love gallery culture. I love gallery networks. I love presenting my work. But that's a really timely experience. Defining a concept, creating a show around the idea, and present the body of work and connect with our collectors and curators and society. That's a practice, of course. Almost every year we have definitely one form of gallery show. Now we are presenting 5 new museum shows next year. So definitely it's a practice, very important. And actually, I love gallery practice because it's way humbling than try to imagine a permanent complex artwork. Our works are almost in now, I guess, 19th coming permanent installations. When I say permanent, they have a different responsibilities. Like in Colombia, within a school, we just open a piece, and that responsibility is very different, right? We are like trying to inspire the next generation, like maybe CEOs and CFOs and pioneering business people, but they just don't want to worry about business, but they want to get the humanity in the building, that they just want to like remember how machines are, humans are. Like there's a lot of deep discourse when we imagine artworks for environments. Or you will hear a couple of more great news from other major schools coming. That's one practice. And museums and galleries are also one practice. I really believe that artists learn so much when you think more, I guess, humble skills, when you think about objectifying a context, when you think about collecting a physical artifact versus, virtual beings. But I also like the idea of blending with museums because, like our work at Guggenheim Bilbao, it's just recently closed. And I mean, it's so hard to think about how to collect 50 channel projection piece living in the cloud, dreaming every day. How do we collect this? How do we collect living artwork? Like, what is the definition of a living artwork that is on, like, who knows? One astrophysicist said that he believes that digital cloud works has much more longevity than a rock, which is interesting context. Everyone is now discussing how do we live with this context? And with Getty Foundation at research, we are working closely to like have a kind of a blueprint of collecting AI art, collecting cloud-based algorithms, and then apply to the business models of, I guess, collecting art through galleries that asking for how to do this to like their collectors and promise this because there's a value in it, right? A gallery has to be responsible for the collector, be sure that artist's dream doesn't like disappears. And we are doing our very best to support as much as we learn.
Sorry, just to kind of continue on the gallery thing. I feel you are the absolute grandmaster, Refik, of kind of figuring out how to break through to a wider audience without a gallery. And you've done a better job than most artists with the biggest galleries in the world.
No, thank you very much. Teamwork.
In a short amount of time, I mean, I know you've been doing it for a while, but still, it's incredibly impressive. What is it? Over 70 countries, exhibitions. I don't know, just, yeah, sorry, Jamie, go on.
You seem to be compounding it. You seem to be kind of figuring out how to build on what you've done the year before and go even bigger. Can you speak to that at all? Like how do you think about it? Like, do you consider yourself to be? Are you running a business? Do you see Refik Anadol as a brand that you're trying to grow? Can you kind of lend any insight into any of that? I mean, like the Messi collaboration, for instance, really interesting move. You wouldn't have seen something like that usually from a Koons or a Kasama, but I've got no doubt that got your work in front of many millions of eyes. How I don't know. Can you speak to how you think about all of this?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, as I mentioned, if you are in your own journey of your own patterns and decisions and, I guess, responsibilities, there is this incredible level of fun for the brain, I guess. I will be honest with the fun of steering the life through these incredible opportunities, but also possibilities and responsibilities are all equally important. You can become a brand eventually if the work is well, I guess, received and shared. Everything and anything can become a brand for sure in this age of, like, I guess, social media and many others. But I think what makes the work that I believe is more than an object or a product or a service is really the experience. And I feel like experience is the art, the moment of touching a mind and a soul intellectually on the surface, whatever and however it is. It's really what it is. And I feel like what helped us at my team, I need to come back to a team. The reason I have this incredibly wonderful group of people, which we work for 10 years, and we only lose 3 team members to a good things, marriage or, PhDs, which we support. It's just really this having a vision we all locked in. And we are not like necessarily thinking hype cycles. I'm not like trying to think about what to, like, I don't even know what will I share on social media. I have no agenda, zero. I wake up, I think about life, what we are doing. That's me right there, honest. Type something. That's what it is, honestly. And there's no hidden agenda. There's nothing this like engineered or calculated. And that honesty, that openness from heart, I feel like is what it is. And that is, I believe, what still remain valuable for society. And the same thing for Messi when he came back and said, "Oh, like we look for almost every artist, and we were like trying to find a partner to create a value for UNICEF."
This is Messi's team.
Yes, Messi's team. They were so honest and open and direct. Like, we look every single artist, and we were looking for someone like you can create innovative work of art, but also create an impact, a value that we can measure, because it's about UNICEF. We can't just want to do some, no offense, but who knows, at some charity random work, a true honest work, and they know that the future of young ones are not only just requirements of food and health, but also intelligence. They have this very clear vision, and UNICEF needs absolutely solve the hunger problems, health problems, but also intellectually educating the young ones. I mean, when you go to some random places, I hear like, but AI is so cheap. It's only $20. Don't go Starbucks. I say like, wait a minute. What you said is the most worst thing ever for humanity. Your perception of money and value is so different when you go to somewhere else where the information is impossible to get. And the more we learn about these aspects of life, the more we work with UNICEF and UN and those incredible, powerful institutions. I felt that this is, I don't know why other artists don't do work. I have no idea. But when I'm called by this, we immediately respond because we know the work is good work. That's one thing. And I respect all other artists that you mentioned, but I see Kusama and Louis Vuitton collaboration. I see many artists like doing beautiful work with brands, right? Especially luxury brands are allowing pioneer artists to shine through their vision. That's a very common pattern for since Medici's, I guess, nothing new. What I felt hardest is honest work around these causes. And that's not that easy to work with Messi with 500 million followers, assume the message goes through successfully to his fan base, to humanity, to the collector, to the UNICEF. It's a very different art making than a beautiful painting or sculpture.
So what do you hope those billion people will experience, think, feel when they interact with that piece?
I mean, from the Messi project perspective, it's a very different audience. And football and sports and arts, when they blend, it's a different interaction, first of all. It's not like a luxury brand does something. It's not like some selling a bag or something like whatever. That's not the same approach. What happens here is when in the again Messi context, we sit together for hours and like think about his best memory in his life. And I really didn't know who he is, to be honest. I was not a football person. I don't have a sport context in my life too much. I just like believe that he is of course, the legend, and his practice is almost ending in some form and starting another like others. And he was so like from his heart, like how can I contribute my journey to humanity? And it was an incredible, genuinely from heart dialogue. And I felt that it's incredible to work with one of the most genius minds of his own. And he just said, I want to gift my best memory of my career to create a value for humanity. It was super, super honest, super direct communication. It was that honest. Starting generally, I felt ends with beautiful value. But what I didn't understand, of course, how Messi is a hero for many young ones. How he is like a kind of a form of, especially in some locations in the world where the hope is relatively low or income is low, but the hope is becoming a hero, like hero's journey kind of
in
moment.
Argentina.
Exactly. And actually that's what I felt that I mean when we do joint post in Instagram, you can imagine like how million people's eyes on I guess we had 4 or 5 posts together. Oh my god.
Wow.
All summer
Wow.
the amount of I just try to look some of them. I don't have too much time for deep diving in social media, but when I spend like let's say half an hour, I just want to understand the pattern. The world is in my inbox. The world. And I was saying, thank you so much. And his memory is the best. And or like I guess the other is Ronaldo. That I learned that there is this nice fun competition. Oh, you should get the Ronaldo. Not like I mean, I have no idea who these people are, but when I filter it, the artwork's impact that people who went to Rockefeller Center and people are I guess truly crying, feeling connected. I mean, I made a one interview with Reuters interviewer. She just said like 2 3 times, I have a goosebump. I have a goosebump. Like I said, sure. I mean, that means that's art. First of all, that's what art may make. That's normal when you feel something special, like the pyro erection is a common form of a response to the form of art, and it's so funny that sport world sometimes didn't felt something else but the joy of that victory. or the loss, but being with the person, right, in the journey. But when the person's journey, I guess, reframed as a painting or sculpture, that was the reaction that to your answer, I guess, that they felt, oh wow, I am celebrating a memory of my hero through some form of new art.
Did you realize the momentousness and importance of it when you and also just like this is going to sound ridiculous, but I met a champion racehorse when I was like 15 years old. It was called Frankel, and it just had an aura around it. I wasn't expecting to feel anything but like, so, oh, wow, I'm in the presence of absolute greatness here, and there is something just that feels very important in my presence. Did you feel that at all?
100%, because when you say about the greatness, that's an incredible word to me. I don't believe in perfection, but I believe in greatness. And I believe that to make your own field and your life greatness and make the life's work is really the pattern we can feel across many domains. People who spend significant time of their life to become what they want to be and be sure that they're on a compass of truth and their work and the craftsmanship, sportsmanship, whatever the form of creativity and outcome they go for. And it's not a chance. It's really a pattern of greatness, a person to reach a level of, I guess, places that many struggle to go for some reason and try to find those, I guess, mountains to climb in life and tell the world that they exist. Because not egocentrically, just being there, it just makes sense for life, right? Sharing is happiness and happiness is sharing. And I feel that he has a very similar pattern, but also, by the way, I felt this when I collaborate with Orhan Pamuk, Nobel laureate, or Demis Hassabis, Nobel laureate. When I work with these incredible people, I felt the same beautiful chasing greatness for humanity from heart and work on their life's work. And these patterns, I don't believe, are chance. They are really some honest human instinct for life.
What do you say to people who criticize projects like the Messi project? Because I saw quite a bit of. I mean, the art world. A lot of people in the art world roll their eyes. It's like, oh, this is tacky. This is mass market. But the reality is, you are getting your work in front of an audience that almost no one else in the world has ever.
Well, and it's raising money for charity. I mean, it's raising a lot of money for charity.
I really ask what others do. There is this moment of maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I will be worrying about whatever people may say, but it's really after honestly working from heart, making good things that you can quantify, while the other part of art world is not doing the good work that we look for. I just can't listen. I don't. My respect is for the people doing the work. My respect goes to the people who research the most. My respect goes to the people who does the work. And that's a respect relationship. And you only give a respect to some, a sentence, a word. I think it's a basic human instinct, right? We care about our family because we love and respect them. Similar context. I only look at the information. To me, it's a data point, honestly. And it's just like another data point, sure. And then versus you listen to people who do the work. And when I hear from the UNICEF, that's what I listen. When I hear from the people on the field in Amazonia and protecting nature, I hear and I talk with them. When I hear from an artist that never properly exhibit their work, but through Winds of Yamanava project, they have been recognized, or in the World Economic Forum, become the first cultural leader, that's what I feel connected. And those are the places where I feel, honestly, the real work. And I think talking is really easy, extremely easy, and sharing comments and critics very easy. But in the age of AI, I really question everything. Is that data point really relevant? Is it really well researched? Does it have a really meaning that is doing the work, or just another classical negativity that we need to take attention? Because the system we created, unfortunately, requires negativity to take the attention. We know that very well. unfortunately, from the social media. Clickbait, like critics who have been like running away from the reality of change and who has been like not doing the deep research. I mean, I need to answer one of the critics to say, ChatGPT writes better than you because it's a really bad article and the information is so bad and it's so limited and shallow. So I am in that position as a human to use a system gives me better information than what I read. So I think it's everywhere. And also I have to be very clear and open. I love art world. I love my artist friends. I love the culture. But there are like any other mediums. There are moments that people don't want to expand the horizon in any medium. This can be science, this can be education, this can be art. We can see that we do not want to change. The change is a very powerful force of life, and it's very hard to accept. This can be a relationship, this can be psychological, this can be intellectual, this can be financial, spiritual. But the change of the force of life through change, I believe, is always a challenge for societies. In my practice for 10 years, humbly, I felt that people who embrace the changes are also the people that I found the pioneers who have been pushing forward. And I started like get that spirit in our work and that feeling of it. And it's okay to find those people who are against it. And it's great to hear perspectives if they are valuable and have a meaning, not necessarily, clickbait basic thinking. And I think that's very important to hear perspectives, but only give the respect if it's the right, if it has a value truly. Is the word to really care about, or it's just another like random data point in the infinite possibilities of life? That's, I think, how I would feel about it. For Messi response, of course, that's happened. For MoMA, it happened, but it slowly disappears because my understanding with Guggenheim Bilbao, we received 442 articles in 6 months.
Sorry, did you say 442?
Yeah, just Guggenheim Bilbao project. We received close to 1 million people in 30 years of Guggenheim's highest audience. And when we opened the show, I knew that. In Europe, the shows are, of course, reflected very different. And the response to AI is so harsh. And the concern is, of course, rightfully high. But we did the project so clearly, honestly, openly, saying this artwork is using 4 iPhone charging energy for 1 year. Number one. And number two, we asked Frank Gehry the permission to use his life's data. And this was very clear from the day one. And you cannot imagine how beautiful the response we received. And the audience were ready for not only great experience of ethical and sustainable art, but also discuss. So the information we created around that artwork, and of course critical positive, positive meaning critically understood experience, is fascinating. So it's all about, I guess, defining the goal and purpose. Makes life absolutely much inspiring and fun, and misunderstood moments disappears. You finally get the point. Okay, I get out of this concern. I get out of this like hysteria and paranoia. Now I have a place where I can now imagine. Okay, what can I imagine here? I get rid of all these concerns and like paranoias and, you know, decisions that are more clear. It's like, what is a space for artists? How do we go there? Like, how do we be sure that we all are there and beautifully in the same positive place of happiness, secure and safe that we can all imagine? And that's really like Rothko says, my work is a space. I really feel the same thing. Our work is a space.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that? I don't fully understand that.
So the Guggenheim Bilbao is a space, right? We create an immersive environment. And people, when they enter these environments, what they felt through is not just some computer graphics.
It's not just one object. It's the experience.
Exactly. The intellectual coverage of that context, when it's well communicated and explained with the good intent. I think these are like really what happens. And that's what I'm trying to say for other artists practicing. This is very possible and very, very tangible responses.
On that note, Rafik, the experience of your work is obviously extraordinary. I would imagine if you're in that scale and in that immersive environment, but you also have a lot of success selling works on the blockchain as NFTs. And I wanted to ask you, when did you start with it, or what's your relationship with NFTs in general?
And the space and the collectors here.
Yes, so this is the exciting part. So I was super grateful for our NFT journey, Web3 journey. As I mentioned, working with the classical collectors is something, but I didn't know that in the pandemic, when the world was almost closing, the hope was disappearing. I had two incredible memories. First of all, Puck is a good friend. Of course, Mike People is a good friend. We are very well connected. And we have been talking all about blockchain, of course. But I think what felt me the different is, I think 2019 or 18, I don't remember which summer, one of our collectors said that, hey, this is, by the way, I thought it's a traditional collector. He said, you know what, I can't sleep well. I just need this artwork to be also on the blockchain. I think 19 or 18 summer, and I still don't exactly remember. But that was when I heard about what does it mean to be on a blockchain and artwork. And that was like when I heard about it, because I normally had a copy of work in the cloud, in a physical object, in a computer. So 3 copies minimum. But I didn't know the 4th copy is needed.
So sorry, did you say a collector had your work, but he also wanted it, or she also wanted it to be on the blockchain? Okay.
Yes. That's what I heard about it. It's a very crypto pro person that we love and respect. And but I didn't understand that it's like a feeling that exists, a feeling of an artwork on the blockchain. What does it mean? Like, I got the cloud data, it's backing up. I got the USB or something. I got it. I got the computer. That's also, I got that feeling. But the blockchain as a space to host the work. And then 2 years later, I mean, of course, pandemic, I got the first Nifty Gateway call. And I mean, back in time, our friends were saying, like, it's a great space. You should come and do something. I said, like, dude, it's awesome. But you see that there's a $1 artwork here. And our works are like, sometimes 4, 5, 6 figures. How do I communicate this with my collectors? Like, what do they feel in this, like, a marketplace vibe of, possibilities? I said, like, yeah, but it's ledgering. It's a new technique. It's a new way of valuing. It's just starting. Please experiment. I love experimenting. Zero, like, I don't have any problem with experimenting. And so, of course, let's experiment. And that opened up a new world. And then a great community of almost 15,000 people that I every single day say hi. And incredible value given back to our work. Up and downs, I mean, like any other places. But what lead to us is the MoMA collaboration. It was 22 when MoMA believe, Michel Kuo, Paolo Antonelli, and Casey Rias, they believe, they always, of course, experiment. They are so open-minded people, and they love innovation and discoveries. So I'm so grateful that Web3 connect us to MoMA, and MoMA connect us to the world.
Amazing. And are you still friends with Pac and people, Mike?
Of course.
Where's Pac?
Where's Pac? You should ask them. But everyone have their own journeys in life.
Spot? Okay. All right. Might there be a comeback, Rafik? Might there be a comeback? Maybe
I
a
hope
Rafik
so.
Pac collaboration. That'd be pretty epic.
I love their work so much. I love their performances on the chain so much. I love intellectual depth of it. We miss it. But I also believe that, I mean, the journey of Web3 is like 4 years, right? I mean, maybe less than 4. I don't even know how many years now. I feel 4 years for me personally. It's so short journey. Like, it doesn't have, I mean, we have beautiful challenges, of course. The value is still the topic and not the, context of work. Lots of things to learn and develop and evolve.
So do you in your practice have an outlet where you're selling your works as NFTs, but then also your other collectors just buy them not on the blockchain?
Of course. I mean, our work is in both physical world, like we have collectors don't want to touch computer ever at all.
Yes.
I have a couple of collectors that don't want to read a PDF at all, but they appreciate something else. And I think, but at the MoMA and other experiences, I think we onboard many new people to the space. I personally teach hundreds of people over the years how to open MetaMask, how to like interact with the blockchain. So for our museum, we raise a funding through Bioluminar collection. In that time, we have half of our collection is not Web3 at all. Like people who have no idea about Web3. For Winds of Yavanaba project, we were able to train Iskakua, the young chief of the tribe. He learned how to like use smart contract. It's the first tribe in the world had their own like Web3 wallet. It's incredible things we experimented. So that's the part that makes me more inspired than ever.
How do you think about the kind of Web3 community thing? Because there's such a kind of closely knit group of people there. You're obviously immensely busy.
I really don't have time socially to go beyond my capacity, but I can easily say to grow a community, the community needs lots of healing, lots of patterns are. I'm pretty confident makes people not to be a part of it.
How do you mean? Sorry.
So like they're like, when I ask some of our traditional artists, they come like, let's practice Web3, let's experiment on blockchain. I can hear their concerns. I love Web3 community. I'm very happy. And I don't even care ups and downs and, becoming small or large. It's beautiful. It's community. But to bring more artists together to practice is really very hard. It requires more than Art Basel, more than Phrase LA. It requires artist itself, not the market itself. The market is one thing, but to create a community truly that builds the arts and the community is very different. And the reason we opened Dataland, our AI museum, is really be a little bit understand that part of building a community. And when I say building community, it's not Discord. It's not like Twitter or like saying GF to each other. It's like really more than and truly hand in hand. Like for example, with Google Arts and Culture, I invited Arts and Culture. Hey, like, can we join the forces to create arts residency program that we can bring people together and really hold the hands of artists? I saw that myself. Whoever helped me in my early days, my early arts residencies, give me the best joy of my life. When someone believed the vision and the idea and the context and discourse, that energy that creates for artists is incredible. But if I look at like quickly Web3 world, that's all that for, that by that, and then this, it's so primitive. It's just a value, but not the context, not the discourse. Did the artist innovate something? Did the artist create something like ever-changingly unexpected? Or is it just another beautiful work versus the value, the value, the value, the value? Like I felt that was a reason some of, I guess, traditional artists felt disconnected. So now I'm trying to find, like, can we go beyond that? Like, can we create a positive impact through residencies, collecting, discussing, just trying to find these new voices.
Taking all of that aside, taking all of that out of it, the value side of things, I collect a lot of digital art. I collect it for a few reasons. I will admit that one is because it's more fun to own an artwork than to own stock in a company or Ethereum or something. So the value part of it is definitely, it's not nothing.
Well, I don't. I don't buy it for that reason. But you're right. There's a lot of that.
No,
yeah,
it's not the reason I buy it.
I think there's also
it clearly makes
and you don't either. I don't think you don't either.
It definitely makes less sense than Bitcoin.
100%. All right, go on.
So it's not the only reason, but it's definitely a big part of it. Is ownership of digital art a part of what you're trying to teach people, show people? Are you trying to help people get a sense of what it means to own a digital artwork?
So I am more than that thinking when I think about the whole experience. To create value is one part of this, meaning the intellectual discourse, context. Then around that, what the value happens. And then that value creates communities. And that communities becomes like that type of little bit much more than the first intent of the value. Just doesn't make sense in a healthy cultural journey of humanity. It has to be more than that. And when I say more than that, is really the creating the idea and the value itself. That's why at Dataland we start with artist residency program. We just don't want to like create another collection, another thing, versus what is the dream of an artist that can be executed with this funding that, thanks to our friend at Arts and Culture at Google, allows us to like give up to now hopefully more artists because of the great response. We received more than 1,000 plus application, and we were trying to fulfill. I mean, can you imagine this like incredible response? I don't even know how amazing that could be for an artist that are practicing in some ceramics but want to create a work with AI, or a chef that want to imagine new world, or a musician. So the response we receive is incredibly diverse, and that is incredible feeling.
Refik, can you break down Dataland, actually, your visions?
It'd be amazing to just get an overview.
Yes.
Please
Give us an
how it
overview.
came into being.
Absolutely.
Sorry it took us so long to get there.
No.
There's too much to cover with you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, it's amazing. I mean, I appreciate all your incredible questions, and I think important. I mean, Dataland is a starting point to me, was in the pandemic when MoMA project started, and when MoMA project happened, I felt the power of art in a different way. I mean, 3 million people, 38 minutes average experience, and incredibly inspiring dialogues across the world. And then it just was back to back to back to back. And then I felt that working with MoMA, Pompidou, Guggenheim, I was so grateful. But seeing these museums and their practices takes so much time and resource to make one exhibition. And there are many artists like me. I mean, it took me like a 1 year, 2 years to make one project. I mean, I cannot believe how many years may take for other artists to have this incredible experience of life exhibiting in the museums. And the other thing is, I felt that the medium that I practice, which is media architecture, AI, and really future of technology embedded into spaces and sensors and technologies and all that hard part of the technology, it's really very hard to bring to like museums, because museums are designed almost a decade ago, and their infrastructure, the board member meetings, many decisions has to be done to make the artists be present. So seeing all these practices, I felt that what could happen if we imagine an institution from scratch. But this time, the physical implementation of technology is already there, and it's future-proof, and then has its own learning education program, which teaches like it's the context, have its own collection, which has its own like longevity of that form of art for humanity, and of course, arts residency. I felt that these four important items together can create a humble institution, can talk more than just beautiful work itself. So that's the dream of the institution. And it's, of course, a very basic start point. The vision is in all these four pillars that we call that. And we ask our heroes and gurus in the field that we ask for, should we do that? Do you think it's like a right idea? And we got an incredible encouragement to get this rolling.
Rafik, I can't get over how ambitious you think generally. Like, these are really big. Like, okay, let's just open a museum. Let's just make the biggest screen in the whatever in the world. It's sort of, yeah, I mean, it's incredibly ambitious idea. So can we break down these four things that you said? So, for example, the residency, really fascinating. I guess you gave a little bit of an overview of that, of the application.
It's open. It's open to everyone. Everyone can apply.
And
no age, no background.
How long is the is the residency? 6 months.
It will be a 6 months and funded by this $25,000 per artist, and then plus, of course, who knows, compute and other amazing
and
resources will be given.
Access to all the resources. You get mentors.
All the resources, large nature model, all the Google, the Gemini, VO, whatever needed in the compute, like no limits, and it's all about imagination. Everyone, please, you are very welcome. but it's this like the dream space is needed for artists that I felt that was missing.
I love this. I love the dream space idea. Okay, and then what about the collection? So you guys are thinking about actively collecting, or have collected? And what kind of work do you collect?
We will love to collect this form of art that I'm calling AI arts, or we call it like human-machine collaboration. Not a lazy work, not like a basic work, a work that requires rigorous research, information understanding, if possible, fine-tuning models, if possible, like collecting their own data, like have this new, I guess, practice around ethical and sustainable data and AI research. So just try to create a new community around this field instead of just, creating another basic one.
So it's basically AI art that is a lot about the technique of training the model. It's not just an artist like, let's say, Cindy Sherman, who uses AI for art. That wouldn't be of your interest. It needs to be somebody who's really advanced and understands how to train the models and does something innovative in a way.
So it's really hard to define the framework, because the 1,000+ application, I couldn't finish understanding them. There are people with incredible intellectual expectations coming. There are people with incredible scientific expectation. There are people coming from spirituality. It's really hard to define what it should be. But there are people, the intent of it is something we really deeply care about it. Like, why exactly this machine-human collaboration you believe can open up any mediums and imagination, and from the critical perspective to value perspective, from anything and everything. No limit, really.
Because sometimes the intent and the intellect and the research is there, but it doesn't translate into good work.
That's why we just find that small group of subset of people from the whole selection to give the chance the first group. And their work will be, of course, collected by the museum and by the collection, but also we will be coming back to the Web3 space and, challenge our friends and generate this maybe body of work and collect their work. But we want to collect like a living systems. We want to get in this mindset of a living system, not necessarily one idea, one concept, one image, one video. We want to go with this living system concept as an artwork, because for me, because MoMA is not just a screen, it's a living system. It doesn't pause it, you can unplug it, it can run in the cloud. It's not like this idea of I'm here, that's it, that's me, versus a system as the art form. And I feel like this mindset takes a lot of time and resource to make it happen. So that's where we are, high level.
When you open in 26, how do you open? Do you open with like a group exhibition? Do you open with one of your own installations, or what is the plan there?
So the plan is to open the space with our exhibition, because the technology this space needs, when you see, it is unfair to ask anyone to do anything yet. And the reason that we went a little bit 10+ year longevity of the space instead of creating a thing for now. And that brought us very hard technological expectations. And it took as a studio with resources us more than 1 year to just produce the work, minimum, another 1 year for AI research. So it's not fair to say, here's your canvas, and then we decide to learn how to use these systems, and then invite with the residency properly, give the resource and the time and celebration. So do it right. But this museum is collaboration space. The whole exhibitions that has been designed for next 5 years are remarkable collaborations, not egocentric works. It's more about celebrating and truly, honestly, big collaborations that are institutions and data sets and people and heroes, not necessarily one type of, a work of art.
I have so many questions about this. Do you have a curator who's in charge of the programming, or is it mostly led by yourself?
I am the artist director at the moment, but my mentors are remarkably, we'll share more about them. I get a lot of feedback from my mentors, and they will be our, I guess, wisdom council, we call them. And these are the pioneers of the field and heroes of the fields. And they are incredibly supportive, and they have been sharing invaluable inputs from the many disciplines. But at the moment, what we want to do, as I mentioned, to have a fair start, it's impossible to ask these complex technologies make people to do things. So it was a fair response we received, because we learned that as a studio, we are in a privileged location and space with lots of resources of compute. It's very, very, very hard to find these resources to make a breakthrough scientific work. So we just didn't find it right. So we want to balance this rightfully, honestly, that's honestly why we couldn't just ask immediately anyone, let's do something, and it didn't make sense in the first year. But residencies is where we found the beautiful collaborations. And
I was at Tyler Hobbs's studio the other day, and I was kind of marveling at how incredibly clever he must be to be able to create these generative pieces. And he said to me, actually, honestly, you don't need to be a maths genius to do this. The real skill you need is as an artist. Like, you need to be a good artist to create good works, not a good software engineer, good coder. And I wonder if that's something that you think about at all. To what extent does technology kind of get in the way of helping people assess whether or not someone is a great artist? And how do you avoid kind of gimmicks? I'm not quite sure how to frame that. Do you kind of know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, it's really about, when you talk about greatness, I mean, as I always say, we are as good as our next project. That's a simple benchmark for me. Like, for example, Biolumina collection that we've prepared for almost a year, I know that we need one of the most advanced image models, sound models, text models, smell models. So I mean, to me, that was a very originally, the challenge was, okay, if we do something on blockchain next time, because Wind of Yavanava was a beautiful challenge. We had these beautiful 12 paintings from the young Yavanava artist. They allowed us to fine-tune a model ethically. And then we put a wind pattern recorder, the weather station in the forest, beam the Starlink data for 1 year, and use that data to make that patterns. Obviously, that patterns are so unique and belongs to that forest. And the colors are so unique because only 12 paintings exist in the world. So that was great. I mean, very, very distinct purpose. But for Biolumina, I felt that if we are opening Dataland with its own collection, and we can now have this amazingly complex image model, and plus we have 60 sensors, traveled 16 rainforests, that data of the pulse of the forest is beautiful. Like, I knew that these are the challenges. I mean, how do you analyze months of data set of the heartbeat of a tree? How do you record the soil humidity of these incredible hard places and get that all this information and let an AI to dream, I guess, hallucinate new creatures that you can see, and they just, I guess, metamorphose in the chain, and then have a chance to have a conversation, and then hear them, and then smell them, right? When I think about those concepts, I just don't, I don't want to say it's easy. I mean, it's great that Taylor can mention in some part of generative art, but I believe when the work requires more than solo interpretation, the work that you need is really different. Like, for example, our appreciation goes to people who collect data for last 2 years. Our appreciation goes to Smithsonian, who record for 45 years the best nature data in the world and open source it. Our appreciation goes to our amazing sound recorders of the forest for 9 years. Our appreciation goes to the bird songs in the collection. It's 250,000 bird songs. This is in science. I mean, you see, it's more than final outcome. And I believe greatness for these artworks will be understood over years, like when people realize, oh, that is not just a bird song, it's from these data sets, from this AI model, that that type of thinking is very different and more complex. So I think it requires a lot of people's appreciation from different fields in our practice to get it right and feel unique and celebrate all the ingredients that pieces.
You mentioned about half an hour ago, maybe a bit more, about how you've only, over 10 years, your team have only lost 3 people, and you mentioned that your team are kind of all kind of excited to get behind a particular vision. What is that vision, and do you have any kind of big overriding goal that you're working towards as an artist? Okay.
I think from the day one, my sentence that I use in my MFA thesis, I use in my talks, I believe art should be for anyone and everyone and any age and any background. And the reason our team has 15 language and 10 countries is coming from the idea of togetherness and destroying the borders and passports and all that biases that separates us, which I respect cultures, but the idea of being togetherness to understand the language of humanity through culture and art is really the fundamental context of our work. And we didn't change this idea. We never change our compass. We never change for 10 years, reach some analytical data, some shortcuts or whatever. We never change our values and visions and the purpose of art making. And over the years, what made all of our team members excited about is there's always a beautiful challenge that we have in our practice, either intellectual, financial, scientific, technological. I mean, there's always something we found ourselves somehow struggled. Like there's no place for, oh my God, today is an amazing day. There is no, like this is this beautiful feeling of solving many problems and creating a value of an experience, a museum show, a gallery show. We always felt that we always reach a beautiful mountain that we all love to be together. And the other thing I felt so much inspired is when our work touches people's minds and soul, and the amount of response comes globally, is something very special. And those can be very personal notes that someone lost dear ones or someone have a new life in their life. And the spectrum of emails and messages we receive are a pure motivation. And these motivations allowed us to think that, and I know it sounds like very weird, but now with AI, I hope no more. I believe art can be a medicine. And I believe it is, but we just couldn't frame it well for humanity. And I don't believe that the work that we do is just like whatever experience on a wall or some projection or screen or something. When the places of our audience travel and the places they share with us, and I share with all my team, I share all the personal messages. We are like reading, many things together, and it's so powerful. And I found the joy of creativity since my childhood, never alone. I never enjoy egocentric journey. I never felt that I am creating a value for me or humanity if I'm alone. I felt that the togetherness to go longer versus speed of a solo person. I guess kind of African proverb that if you want to go further, do it together. The value of that is so incredible, and I felt that what that can say and share is something special. And becoming a team requires a leadership, requires a clear vision, requires a purpose in life, because artists do not retire, right? So that's like a life's work. If you put all these values together, that's I think one of the reason, the joy of life every morning. And I always say the same thing. Our work is all about bringing inspiration, joy, and hope, and I never change my compass. The world has wars, separations, and conflicts. We have ups and downs and all type of problems of humanity. Not ignoring them, but still finding a place for all these three feelings that makes us human. And I believe in the age of AI that will profoundly change who we are. We'll have a lot of losses. We will have a lot of gains. We'll have a lot of ethical questions because AI became a mirror for humanity. It will show us who we are. It will show us so much things we don't want to see. And it's a hard place to be. And it requires not only emotional and intellectual, but spiritually strong places to be for humanity. And how do we be sure that our work is not just becomes a noise on social media, but a feeling, but a space? So these are never change. I never change those things we discuss with our work in my keynotes. They always the same values. Technology can change. AI can come and go. Robotics, whatever. Sure, but the core values never change.
How have conversations with Jensen, Huang, and Demis affected those thoughts?
Incredible people. I mean, Jensen last year, when, by the way,
Is it
he's
Hassabis? Is that how you pronounce it? Sorry,
Demis Hassabis,
Demis
yes. I mean, I want to
Hassabis.
give the Yeah, the Jensen, just a quick example. So for 9 years, collaborating across different worlds, when they invented the RTX, which is a special photons calculations of the rendering technique, it was the first time a reflection happened in real time in an artwork. It was a historic piece that we did together now 7 years ago in Gamescom. Anyway, like many things has been happening. And at MoMA, they were our true partners. They donated 2 supercomputers that Artwork was dreaming for, which was ridiculously one of the most challenging technology we have to implement. By the way, people sometimes forget that when you work with these giants, they believe that, oh, it's a shortcut. In fact, it's much harder because they don't solve the problem. They just say, sure, here's the hardware, but you have to solve the problems. And they love to give more challenge than just getting one computer. Just to let you know, it's actually very challenging to be close the work than from far. Let me get this computer. And then when he heard about our nature model research, he said, sure, if you do the data research, if you have the data that you clean up and you collected already and travel the world, we are happy to help you for compute. So it's an incredible partnerships that allows us to have our AI museums model is their compute resources. And Demis, so what DeepMind did, and I think it's the first time we heard a scientist received a Nobel Prize because of this AI research of AlphaFold, right? An incredible breakthrough. It's not a chance because it's a truly researcher and scientist. And this same team, I was at the residency 10 years ago. So it's like incredible to see that pattern evolves, and now we have more surprises. And these people are not only just transforming humanity's journey, but they're really sensing and caring. Like when I work with those very close people, and I understand the problems of AI, what it could create, but the people who are creating AI, these are people like truly seeing something much brighter than what we are seeing in the darker part. And I just want to say it very clearly because of course their agenda is product servers. Of course they need to scale. Of course. But what I want to say is the people pioneering humanity's next frontier research on science and many other patterns of hopefully good news to come are, curing disease and finding solution to many problems that we couldn't so far. That hope that they create is incredibly inspiring. And I know this is maybe a shiny part of AI, and I know that may not be the only part of AI, but working with them and seeing their passion and light that brings incredible scientific success for humanity is really something powerful. The hope that they generate with those scientific research is incredible. Again, ups and downs and many problems. I'm not necessarily ignoring any of those, but I just need to see that bright side. It's so
Well, they both seem
truly
like
incredible.
awesomely good people as well, Jensen and Demis.
Truly. And it's and both is aware of like nature can be harmed. Okay, then let's find a solution and we should not harm the nature. When you talk with them, nobody wanna like burn the world and like makes us miserable. And that I can see that problem coming up soon because AI means compute means energy means nature problems. Of course, that's predictably the challenge. But like DeepMind is the first group of art AI engineers optimize Google Cloud to run on renewable energy. The first group. While everyone is like, I have no idea what they use, but they are the one that says, here is your energy consumption. Here is your like Oregon Google Cloud we use. We know exactly how much energy we are using. We ask them, we want to use AI sustainably. How can we do it? Here's our research. In this location, your AI will be dreaming with this amount of energy. Solution. We go there and okay, Jensen's team, and we want to be sure that our like compute rack in the museum, we want to here is yours. So this is like great to have that. And I need to just be honest about how much I ask as every solution, so every problem that we challenge, found the solution so far. And that's an incredibly inspiring dialogue.
Have you personally learned from any of those people?
Of course, many dialogues. And especially I will be very clear about Jensen's journey because, again, 10 years as a collector, as a supporter, as a team that we work in many important moments of their journey. It's an incredible feeling. And you know that very well that doesn't matter, I guess, I don't know how to say that the word in English, but the loyalty that happens in the journey, that when even they may not be the world's most valuable company, they were maybe like way, I mean, I don't know how many times smaller company, but they developed, it was the same compass, same vibe, the same emails, the same energy, the same respect each other, the same joy of innovation and discovery. Um, if it doesn't go away, that's to me the best collector ever for artist life. Because I think collectors and artist relationship is really not about one artwork, not about one piece. The journey of life is the experience, right, for artists. And the true collectors are feeling that and being present in places. And I felt both of them had the same value sharing.
How do you work with them? Because often to have a relationship with a collector, you need to be kind of making sure they're constantly kind of looking at what you're up to. Are you sending them things? Are they seeing things on social media? How do they keep up with your journey?
In amazing teams and very well connected. For years, never disconnected, and they really like. I mean, first of all, we are challenging so much systems, and we are like not using anything existing, right? Artists never use anything existing, right? We hate things that exist. Like you break things, you glitch things, you error things, you just change things. Like I just don't want to use any existing system as a like. First of all, it just doesn't make art. It's just a product service. A system that designed for is something else to make art. Like we love fantasies and dreams and hallucinations that are not necessarily what the system does. So even from that principle that everything is so different like than anyone else, and I feel that this is never change. In the first day I trained a neural network 10 years ago in my residency at the Google AMI program. It's not so different now. For the new thing you will hear soon, it's not so different. So we constantly like experiment, and that experiment opens up so incredible dialogues with many scientists. And those scientists are, pioneers of their field, that they truly enjoy seeing different and finding different ways of looking at what they do every day. And that's what art residency means to me. Artists are the alarm mechanism of humanity. We ask the weirdest questions ever. And I personally ask what is beyond reality. And that's a very heavy question for scientists. And then, like, how do you explain, how do you answer this question? And I can ask I can tell many examples like this. So it's a relationship of really the artist's journey. And the technology just changes, but the compass doesn't.
There's so much talk in the art world. How can we kind of reach Silicon Valley? I had no idea that you were working with those guys. It sounds like you have.
The only way, by the way, I was able to bring them is Dataland. That's why they're our partners, to give value back to the communities. That's why Dataland is on the shoulders of these giants. Not me and my partner Efson. We are just, humble two people. We can't create it's like we don't have board members. We don't have these wealthiest people of the world. I mean, that model is respect, but this is not that. This is something else.
Are we in a simulation? Do you know something we don't?
Very hard one. I mean, so speculative, and then
what are the chances we are in someone in the layer above us, Dataland?
I hope not. I hope not. I hope not that we have the chance, and control is still our life energy, life source. Because simulation concept feels like deterministic world where everything is predicted, sounds not the magic of life.
Thank you so much, Refik. What a brilliant interview. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful questions, because these are deep conversations that are missing sometimes in many places. And I think people are missing who the artist is, the life itself, and people have so much bias and assumptions. But putting this light to this world that is sometimes hidden for people, I think fascinating to share. So thank you very much for your thoughtful questions.
Is there anything that people should be aware of? What's coming out? What's on the horizon?
We're excited to share Dataland. That's our much amazingly challenging one. We have 5 museum shows in the horizon for 26 that I will love to share more. A little bit early.
Okay.
A little bit early, but I think in 2-3 weeks we'll start sharing and great partnerships with an amazing school, schools, I guess. And then, yeah, so will be a lot of inspiring things for 26 that we have been working, and really hope the people come LA and see this beautiful challenge we went through last 2 years and show the world the first Dataland V1. I call it V1, but
How can artists get on the radar of Dataland?
very, very happy to. I mean, I'm putting in the chat for you to share. This is the residency's blog post. We'll love to share as much as, and that's really our like very excited for community to show the museum and our 5 galleries and inspire hopefully many people, and make lots of great work for humanity.
So exciting.
Incredible.
Awesome.
It's so exciting. And are you permanently now in LA, Refik?
Yes. It's a home. It's a new home. Of course, Istanbul is my family. I have 2 homes in life, Istanbul and Los Angeles. That's where the family is. And with my partner Efsun, we anchor our studio in Los Angeles. And so we're happy to host anytime.
Before we wrap up, can I just very quickly clarify this then? So Dataland is a museum for AI and digital art backed by Jensen, Huang, and Demis, who are basically getting behind making a massive thing out of digital art.
I mean, I will say NVIDIA and Google, and of course,
NVIDIA and Google.
I will call them both the institutions. They are, of course, they are part of it, but especially Google Arts and Culture, Google Leadership, I will say Demis, and pretty much, I mean, James Manika, Ruth Borat, Sundar. I mean, they are all truly the champions of the system that we created. Our Google Cloud, by the way, infrastructure for the museum is the first of its own kind. The AI museum means that you need your own sustainable compute. And of course, every single visitor have their own journey. It's very different than another museum. And NVIDIA, of course, thanks to Jensen, incredible compute resources he gave us. Like the museum has, I mean, I'll tell some numbers very soon, but just never heard before compute.
Wow.
Even the Sphere in Las Vegas, which I'm so excited about, we are 6-7 times more than compute. We need that. So just to give you, and it's 10 times smaller space, but 6-7 times more compute. You can imagine what does it mean to make a living gallery and living museum. That living museum is a real thing, not just a name.
Well, congratulations, Refik,
so
on your work and everything
Teamwork.
that you bring to everybody else's lives. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you so much, and our communities and everyone else. Thank you so much.